And good Saturday afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Marketing Corner. I'm your host, Sean Campbell. We have a very special show today because the original guest, I said no to him, Jamar. I got co-host today, a good buddy of mine, Jamar Jordan. Good morning, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah? Were you looking
Yes.
forward to this? Were you kind of like, did you wake up with a little pep in your step?
Always.
Always. So,
More coffee.
yeah, quick story. We did have a special guest, but he was so wishy-washy throughout the week. He committed Tuesday, and then we left our meeting Tuesday, he's like, let's confirm on Friday. I'm like, dude, this is the confirmation. You're going to be there Saturday, right? So I did confirm with him yesterday. At 5:32 in the morning, he texts me back. Okay, dude, let's do it. And I'm like, nah, no. It's an obligation to this audience that, I'm committed to bringing people who want to be here to share their story, period, right?
Right.
We have people, Jamar, that are messaging me on a weekly basis, cannot be on your show.
Right.
So there is a list accumulating in the next few months. We're a few months out. So if you don't want to be here, dude, I owe that to our audience.
I agree.
Yeah. So, hey, Jamar Jordan and we go back a few years. We hung out and met at the Stands Club, and it's an instant click. Once you and I, we no shortage of you and I talking. We've talked business, we've talked, sports. We talk a lot of good stuff, right? But today, obviously, we're gonna, bring our audience the best in what we know. So, Jamar, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about your background and what you do today.
A little bit about my background. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. Yes, I'm a Cowboys
The Big
fan.
D.
No judging. All right. I did 20 plus years in the military. I retired here in Tucson out of Davis-Monthan. I stayed here. Funny you asked that question because what started my my financial journey was really reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so after that really just changed my whole perspective about life and finances. And now 20 plus years later, I'm doing taxes and finances. And so happy to be here on the radio.
And you bring a lot of that military background in what you do. There's been a few times, sitting in the Stands Club, maybe over a cocktail or two, where you and I start talking about organization and leadership.
Absolutely.
I mean, how much is intertwined in what you do for yourself and for your clients?
But it's funny because a lot of people don't, when you first come in the military and, they're drilling you and telling you systems and processes, work as a team. I'm a firm believer of teamwork makes the dream work. And I hold true to that to this day. Even after being retired, I still use those same principles, same philosophies that the military taught me, and it's helped me a lot because I don't know if one of my favorite terms is called synergy. And so to me, if you can work as a team, that's what brings that synergy. And I always want to be part of a team, so I'm greater than myself.
Yeah. I think you and I have talked, about other unnamed organizations, and I think you and I agree. And I forgot the phrase that you used. It's not the people that are out of place; it's the lack of processes.
Right.
Yeah. So, with the military, can you speak a little bit about what you've experienced in your 20 years with the Air Force, correct?
Correct.
And, what you see, how maybe small businesses could use some of that attention to organization and processes?
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite things I tell my clients is that I use the cradle to grave process. It starts with the paperwork and ends with the paperwork, meaning that, you have to have a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. The end is usually the wrap up, which is the most important because if you don't wrap it up, it just continues to go. So just over the years, I really start to expand on that and really hone in on my clients like, look, you need to do your cradle to grave process because usually that's where you're able to catch some of the steps that they missed.
Why do small businesses overlook processes? I have no statistical data in front of me, but I would guess 90 to 95% of small businesses lack processes in place.
Well, part of it is that now, the good thing about America, it tells you anybody can have a business,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily educate you how to run a business.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
think that now a lot of people are just throwing darts against the wall and see what sticks, or they're listening
Hmm.
to somebody
Hmm.
who may have done the work on social media, or they've taken classes, or they've gotten
Hmm.
certifications, and they're thinking that they can really duplicate the people. But a lot of times, the people that are saying that have taken extensive education, and they're just trying to make it seem like it's a lot easier to get started
Hmm.
in order to sell you a course.
Yeah. Another thing is like, I think sometimes leadership in these small businesses, they're not very good trainers. I'm sorry, but they don't know how to train people that maybe don't have any or very little experience with what they do,
Hmm.
the proper way to train somebody. They literally just put them at a station or put them in front of a computer and say, go at it. We wish you luck.
Well, it's funny, going back to the military, I'm really happy that I got to go through that extensive training.
Right.
We complain about a lot of things earlier in our life, and then we come back and use those same process systems and processes now as we go on through our later life, and
Mhm.
say, man, I'm glad I really learned that, because that really helps me out,
Right.
not only in business, but just life in general.
Yeah, I think similar to me, I started off in small business. I helped a lot of local small business, in particular in the automotive industry. And then when the recession hit in the early 2000s, I had to I say this jokingly, get a real job. I worked for Citibank.
Okay.
And I don't think without those 7.5 years, as much as I hated it at Citibank, it taught me a lot about systems and processes, and it gave me the ability to sit in front of at a desktop for hours at a time to get work done. Whereas before, I didn't have that discipline at all,
Hmm.
and it taught me a lot about leadership. They actually had tremendous training programs. So when I got back into small business, it was clearly a huge void, I should say, because when you start at a corporation like a Citibank or at the military,
No, absolutely.
there is a training manual, there is an HR, department, there is trainings that you got to go through methodically to build you up
Hmm.
to your discipline.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I totally agree with that.
yeah.
And like you say, you have to. I tell people have to understand how corporate America works. You don't necessarily have to
Mhm.
be like corporate America,
Right.
but America is ran like that. So if you have a better understanding, you take that and you learn a little bit about the methodology. The methodologies are the same.
Mhm.
It's just the techniques. We've got social media now.
Mhm.
We've got the internet. Those things would have evolved, but the methodologies can still
Yeah.
come down to
Yeah.
sales, operations, and finances. If you go back and you look, that's at the core. And now you have the marketing piece, which is huge, because
Mhm.
now it's going from marketing. Now everybody wants to be their own brand.
Hmm. Another thing we have is AI.
Oh, yes.
If you don't have a training manual or human resources manual in place,
Hmm.
there's this little thing called ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT, and it's I'm very open that I use it every day. It's like an assistant to me, right? It's like a partner to what I do. It's literally built out my daily routine, my daily plans for me,
Mhm.
and that's one way that if you're a small business or
Mhm.
even a solopreneur like you and I are,
Right.
I've utilized ChatGPT to be that guide for me, right?
Mhm.
And it's very, very creepy what it can do.
Creepy. Very creepy. I was having a conversation with one of my clients, and he was like, yeah, hold on a minute so I can consult my secretary. And he starts chatting into ChatGPT, and I say, are you serious right now?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
but it's funny because the same thing I was telling him, ChatGPT said the same thing. He was like, oh, well, my
Interesting.
assistant agrees with you. I was
Yeah.
like,
Huh.
okay. But
Interesting.
that seems to be the way for the future now.
Yeah. And we're going to get into a break in about a minute, but when Jamar and I come back, we're going to give you guys an insight of a few discussions we had, and we're going to hypothetically go through a few things. And we're going to discuss is Jamar as the integrator, being the finances guy, and me as the visionary, being more of the guy that comes up with the ideas, and how we think we can help every small business out there, every solopreneur out there. So if you have any questions or you want us to discuss where you're at with your business, feel free to give us a call, 520-790-2040, 520-790-2040, and we will answer every and all of your questions from both the CFO and the CMO perspective. We are back with the Marketing Corner. Jamar and I are also members of the Blue Blazers, and this Thursday is the kickoff luncheon, right? It's at the Westin La Paloma?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. If you want to attend that, I forgot who the main speaker is. But it's the kickoff luncheon. It marks about 100 days before the Arizona Bowl, which is going to be huge. Jamar and I have served on that volunteer committee for the last 3-4 years now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've served. This is my second year.
Yeah, your second year. I think it's my 4th or 5th year, I think. Yeah. So I will be in Denver next week, unfortunately. I'll be back for next week's marketing show, of course. We got a big guest. I'm going to, reveal the big guest in the next break.
Okay.
But it's a huge guest. It's going to make up for not having a special guest today.
Okay.
By far. It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah. So before the break, we talked a little bit about what Jamar and I kind of began discussions about how we could help small business owners, solopreneurs, from a CFO, CMO perspective as a fractional piece, right?
Right.
Meaning you're not hiring somebody full time to do that piece, but someone that's dedicated and an expert in each one of our areas. You and I make up the perfect combination here.
Right.
If you follow anything about integrators and visionaries, that's a perfect combination to lead a business, right?
Right.
So from an integrator perspective, you want to talk a little bit about your piece and what you would bring to the table for a small business who doesn't have that anybody who fills that role.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that if you're not using social media by now, you've already missed the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't, then you need to contact Sean immediately.
Thanks.
Because I'm telling you that there's only so many hours in the day, and you have to do social media pretty much every day to keep up with the trends of what's going on right now in the business world. But as far as myself goes, I failed to mention that I do taxes and finances, but I'm also an enrolled agent. So I'm licensed to practice for the IRS. So I represent a lot of clients that have some tax problems. I help you open up those envelopes you don't want to open up. That's mainly what I do. I sit at the table with you like, okay, let's open those envelopes.
Let's do it together.
Kumbaya. But as far as what I bring to small business, I just make you look at your finances from a different point.
Mm-hmm.
And the point is that a lot of times when you're a solo entrepreneur, when you're I call it a one-man show, that the last thing you forget to do is pay yourself. So basically what you're doing is that you're making money, and it pretty much seems like you're making money to pay bills. And then you was like, well, how come I can't get ahead? Why come I can't scale? Well, then that's when we go back and we look at your numbers and see what you're doing. And, we go and look at your P&L. If you don't have one, we help you create one because you need a profit and loss statement. And we just kind of start from there. So I think that's what we do because, again, I mentioned about the 3 main components of business: sales, operations, and finances, where marketing is a big piece of operations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that piece and you got the finances, now, you're 75% pretty much complete. And then that also gives you the ability to, also in case you want to make any purchases, I come in with you and I say, okay, you want to buy a piece of equipment. Okay, well, how's that going to affect and how long is it going to take to pay that off? And we also look at the return on investment. Hey, is it worth you buying that? And then how much revenue is that going to generate, or how much are you going to save? So my philosophy, there's 2 ways to make money. Either you're making money or you're saving money. In small businesses, a lot of times you don't realize saving money is making money. So that's the part I bring to you.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, just hearing that, I mean, how many of us, including myself a few years ago, never understood any of that concepts, or it's like, I got this cushion in my account, I'll just roll it out. What about the budget? I mean, how important is maintaining or coming up with a budget that makes sense?
Oh yeah, that's a budget is huge, because you have to think sometimes as a small business, then now you have to think about retirement. Because you're not working, through corporate America, or, you're not working with a company that's giving you a 401k that's, doing matching. So, you pretty much are making your own retirement. Now, the good thing is that there are some retirement plans out there for solo entrepreneurs out there. But even before you get to that point, you got to get your numbers straight to make sure you can even, put money towards those retirement vehicles. So again, and you have to, if you treat your business like a business, it will pay you like one. If you treat it like a hobby, then it's going to pay you like one, and you're probably not going to be in business too long.
Right. And see, where you and I had this discussion before is how we could kind of match up for a small business where I can come in and be the visionary, be that marketing or specifically the sales or promotions piece, run it by you to see if it makes sense for that small business owner financially to do so. And if it does, we roll with it. But if it doesn't, we find other ways to make sense both on the sales, promotion, and marketing piece to keep that small business owner within a budget, to keep her or him on track for their future.
Right.
So, I mean, that's one of the things where every small business out there who's, gone by the 12 and the 24-month mark and the 5-year mark, they obviously know what they're doing, right?
Right.
But how much better off could they have been, and how many less speed bumps along the way if they had somebody who was that integrator to be kind of like the two little, the angel and the devil on their shoulders, right?
Yeah.
Me being the devil, saying that's a great idea. Run with
the
it.
They probably think I'm the devil because I'm like, no, you don't have any money.
But you being the angel saying that's a great idea, but we don't got no money to do so.
Yeah.
So what about loans? I mean, and again, we're kind of spitballing this, if you guys haven't kind of figured this out.
Yeah.
But what about loans? I mean, do loans make sense does it just depend?
It depends. I think the number one thing you got to have operating capital, right? And so as long as you have that, now when you first start now, you might need loans. Now I know you got this principle, do it by your bootstraps and everything like that. And I agree with that too. I believe in funding your own business. However, you also need a cushion because you just never know what emergencies come up. And you don't want to say, oh, well, I was told I could start a business with $500. Yeah, but what happens when something happens and something breaks? Now, now you're already in the negative.
Yeah.
So I think that, loans are important. Not only loans are important, but establishing a relationship with a bank credit union is so important, and start building those business lines of credit.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You and I, were kind of discussing specifically, that lone entrepreneur or the solopreneur. I'm going to bring up a bad word. Don't worry, John. I'm not going to curse, but it's a bad word. What about partnerships?
See, I've been in a couple of partnerships myself. Partnerships can be good. I would just say that, I would say vet your partners, though, right?
Yeah.
Because what I say is that a lot of times there's a reason why they're trying to bring on a partner. Now, if they're trying to bring on a partner to scale, that might be different. You're trying to merge what you do. Hey, I do finances. You do this, you do that. Okay, that's fine. But if they're trying to bring on a partner because they're in trouble, well, you probably want to see why they're in trouble and then why they're really bringing you on. And then do you want that headache, especially if you already doing good in the business you already in?
Do you think having the integrator and the visionary makes sense? Two people that are kind of almost opposites would make sense to forge a good partnership.
Oh, absolutely. I believe you have to have and the thing is, what people don't understand, depending on what business is, those roles might reverse, right?
Yeah.
Because my main thing, and I know nobody wants to hear about this, is tracking your progress, right? Tracking, hey, I'm all for social media, I'm all for branding. Just track it and make sure that, that the branding, the social media and everything is doing what it's supposed to do, because you got to have it. There's no other way to do it now without the old school way of, newspapers, yellow pages, all that's gone now. So you got to have social media. My thing is, if you don't know how to direct your social media, you need to call Sean. But if you don't know how to direct your social media,
I'll do you not 2 lunches now. Thank you, Jamar.
But no, for real, because even me being a small business owner myself, I really don't have time for social media.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of times, a lot of businesses don't have it because they're more focused on the operations.
As they should be.
Right.
Yeah.
So then social
Yeah.
media and finances get missed.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
then you're saying, okay, well, how can I do social media if I'm worrying about doing the day-to-day operations?
Mhm.
Well, but
Yeah.
that's also an integral point is how you build more, how you start that sales funnel too,
Yeah.
to either maintain your customers or even get more customers.
Yeah.
So you got to have that piece.
Yeah, and I'm going to give one of the biggest mistakes that I see, small businesses do with their social media, and you're going to follow up with the biggest mistake that you see
Hmm.
they do with their finances. The biggest mistake they do with their social media, they give it to their son or their daughter or their niece who's like, a quote unquote, social media whiz or guru. That drives me up the wall. It's like they don't they don't have any marketing background. They're just, posting pictures of them and their little chihuahuas, one thing.
Hmm.
Posting, a marketing, post is
Right.
totally different, right? So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see,
Right.
that small businesses make with their social media.
Yeah.
One of about 27. what's one or two? We got some lead. We've got about a minute and a half here.
Right.
What are the biggest mistakes that you see small business owners do with their finances?
I would say being too cheap, trying to take
Interesting.
shortcuts.
Interesting.
And I say that is that, again, if you treat your business, I'm going to keep honing in on it. If you treat your business like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby.
Yeah.
If you treat it like a business, it's going to pay you as a business.
Mm-hmm.
And what I say that is that, when I say that my number one thing is that, spend the money, just spend the money wisely
Mhm.
and spend it on something that's going to generate revenue
Yeah.
for the company. And
Yeah.
then the second biggest thing I hear is that, QuickBooks can do everything. No, it can't.
I learned that one the hard way too.
Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. QuickBooks can do everything you do. It can do everything the business needs to do.
Mhm.
But again, bad data in is bad data out. So just
Yeah.
remember that.
As we get into this last bottom of the hour, I want to get back to that point you made about being too cheap. We're going to bring up that discussion.
Absolutely.
You're listening to the Marketing Corner. We are back with the Marketing Corner. We're going to pick up a discussion that we had talked about, entering last break. Was you said something very that caught my attention. You said one of the biggest mistakes that small business owners make is that they're too cheap sometimes.
I agree.
Do you have, obviously not calling anybody out, but I see that with somebody that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because being too cheap really just kind of, it's horrible for the morale.
Right.
I think it's one of the byproducts of being too cheap.
Right.
It's horrible for morale for the other partners and the employees, and it just trickles on down. Is there, any way you could set that standard to where you avoid being that quote unquote cheap boss?
Well, I mean, you have to, part of that, you have to value your company,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then two, you have to see where you're trying to take your company,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, a lot of times, for the top-notch people,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's going to cost you money, but not only will you cost you money, but that top-notch consultant or that
Yeah.
top-notch marketer
Yeah.
has also a network. So now you're tapping into that network too.
Yeah.
So I tell, my clientele, like, okay, so, you're going to this retreat or you're going this or whatever. I say, okay, that's fine. But
Mhm.
you should have an idea, an agenda as you go in there. Hey, I'm looking to establish, relationships with other
Mhm.
business owners like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to tap into that network
Yeah.
with that consultant.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be worth the money
Yeah.
to do that, because now that's going to establish open funnels for you to, again, establish some partnerships and
Exactly.
even, do
Yeah.
work with like-minded people.
Yeah. And to that point, next week, Monday through Friday, actually, I'll be in Denver for a trade show.
Okay.
And the people that I'm representing at this trade show, they put in about 20 grand into this trade show for their booth and their tower and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and that's the way to do it, right?
Yes.
Because if you go in and you buy a little section at a trade show and you've spent,
Mm-hmm.
$150 for a
Mhm.
table and some chairs,
Right.
people will walk right by you. So you want to establish that brand identity, find that area where,
Mm-hmm.
and budget was a major concern. They've been planning this since the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
right? So along the way, they budgeted it out. They knew they had to make, drop a pretty penny to be there and have
Right.
this presence.
Mhm.
So, you got to think about that too. I mean, your presence, how do you appear when you walk into a networking event and your polo is, a $4 polo that you got imported from, you know what I mean? So, Jamari, I think you and I, from the people that we
$4
know,
polo.
yeah, you've seen it. You can't tell me you haven't seen it. Where
Hey.
you've met somebody and they're wearing a T-shirt with a logo on it that looks like they
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm like, oh.
it's a horrible first impression, right?
Yes. Yes.
You and I are probably the hardest working people that we know.
Yeah.
You love your work, right?
Too much, probably.
Too much? Do you think that you and I are both maybe a little bit out of balance, out of that work-life balance?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just
We're being vulnerable right now,
yeah, we're
Jamar.
being vulnerable. I think my thing is, and I hear this from not only my friends but
Mhm.
colleagues,
Mhm.
is that you got to be able to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that well, once you get into that when you get in that problem solving mindset, then I can get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and be like, oh,
Yeah,
I figured it
yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I would say you need to be able to turn it off sometime at night.
Are you saying that just to be kind of PC, or are you saying that?
No, I'm being for real. Like, yes, if you know my friends and you talk to them, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, he worked too much.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, do you want to work less and not enjoy? Because you and I, as business owners, we get that freedom to do what
Mhm.
we want.
Right.
You and I love to work.
Yes.
I'd rather work than do almost anything else.
True.
But, I do have my times where I quote unquote turn it off.
Oh yeah.
But I get to do this. I love what I do.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna. I'm the last person. I admit this 100%. I'm the last person to talk about work-life balance.
Oh man.
I'm sorry, but I am. We have an opportunity here in this country to go after what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And all I got to think about is the time where my dad was stationed at Clark Air Base, being in
Right.
the Philippines,
Right.
and just seeing how much the people there, they don't have, and they still don't have, much to live on
Right.
20, 30 years later.
Right.
So we're going to be getting into our last break here. This was a quick one. We'll be back in a
Yeah.
few minutes. This is the Marketing Corner.
Yeah.
We were back in the last segment of the Marketing Corner. Jamar, this hour goes by fast.
Real quick.
As we get into the last segment, as always do, I want to thank John, our engineer, for helping us out today. The sponsors, David Bradley, Medicare A to Z, Candace Eaton, C Eaton Photography, of course, the man in the studio with me today, Jamar Jordan, LaFay Processing, Last Bridge Media, my buddy Danny McPadden, and Mark Wise, Sales Performance Strategies. Are you ready for the announcement from next week's guest?
Absolutely.
Mr. Edmund Marquez.
Oh.
Edmund Marquez. If you've been in Tucson for a minute, Edmund is that next week's going to be phenomenal.
That name sounds familiar.
Edmund Marquez, yeah, he's I've known him for 25, 30 years, and we're going to talk next week about how he disrupted his industry before the word disrupted industry was
Okay.
even thrown around.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So make sure you listen to
Mm-hmm.
that next week, and it's going to be fast and furious.
I'm excited to hear about
That
this.
dude has a ton of. He's a walking energy drink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's always been that way. So
Yeah.
his son is actually one of the interns for the Blue Bladers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy that was on the athletic team. I think the track and field. For the U
Okay.
of A.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's his son.
Okay.
Yeah, so be sure to tune in and make sure you have your questions ready. If you have any questions for Jamar and I, this last section, it's 520-790-2040. And we're talking about our work ethics and maybe what we'd want to prescribe to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't apologize for it. I don't apologize for it.
Gary Vee works 60, 80 hours a week. That's
Yeah.
all I got to say.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. And he's a major force. He's an influence, right? So
Just got to crush it.
Yeah, and all I want to do is crush it here in Tucson first,
Absolutely.
then move to Phoenix, and then kind of
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
move it from
Expand.
there. You and I were talking a little bit about how I track, because you had a question here during one of our breaks, is how do I track what we do for a client on social media?
Yes.
There is an overabundance of data when it comes to not just the organic or that day-to-day posts, which should have a strategy, right?
Hmm.
But with our ads as well.
Okay.
So if you reverse engineer what you want to accomplish, right?
Hmm.
Say you want more leads, say you want more um, appointments, you want more of your widgets bought online. There's absolutely a way that we could track not only the cost per click and how much it's costing, but the conversion rates on those. But more importantly, and we've all been there, we've all seen it. If you and I are talking about something and our settings aren't set correctly on our phones, you will see one of my ads pop up.
Oh, wow.
So we could retarget, we could look to the look-like audiences, we could do a ton of things. For that trade show that we're going to next week, I was able to get a copy of the 2,700 participants.
Oh.
I downloaded, or I should say, I uploaded them to Meta, the Facebook,
Hmm.
business ads manager, and I'm running ads to every one of those 2,700 participants to come by my booth. And this is coast to coast.
Okay.
There's 2,700 people from coast to coast. As long as their emails are
Hmm.
associated with some a Facebook, profile.
Hmm.
And sure enough, I mean, after literally that first day we started running ads, we had reached close to 1,600 people.
Wow.
So a very high percentage of those 2,700 emails have already been hit. People are going to know me or know our booth, know our product before they even,
That's awesome.
So yeah, we can get super creepy, with,
Yeah.
with our, but it makes sense. And what we can do then is give you that data, and you're going to be like, yes, this makes sense, or it doesn't, right?
Right.
Well, at least we have a data behind it. We're not just kind of saying, yeah, I think it's kind of working. Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Yeah. And I would say one thing in business, you have to be willing to take chances also.
That's huge. That's huge. I think
Yeah.
every successful business owner, they have a few things in common, right?
Hmm.
One of the things is they're fair.
Right.
One of the things that they're not greedy, but they also have that balance to where they're willing to. They have risk.
They got risk.
They
Yeah.
got risk. When you started working for yourself out of the military, I mean, what was that? How daunting was that for you to go from, being a part of the military to working for yourself?
Well, just the whole difference of coming from the military
Mhm.
and coming out to the civilian sector was a total shock. I thought a
Mhm.
lot of
Yeah.
I thought a lot of the populace did the same thing the military did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Customs and values and stuff like
No,
that.
no.
Integrity.
No.
Those important
No.
things in life, right?
Yeah.
And then you get there, you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
this is totally different.
Yeah.
So I knew then. Well, I knew then I wanted to work for myself after I retired anyway.
Mhm.
And I did, network marketing, and while I was in the military, so it really
Mhm.
wasn't that big of a transition. I think the biggest transition was I thought that I thought that everybody, I thought that a lot of the populace kind of, thought the same when it
Mhm.
came down to how you run businesses and how you
Yeah.
treat clients and everything. And
Yeah.
yeah, it
Even
was
as
just kind
even
of
as a military
awakening.
brat, there's a huge difference between growing up amongst other military brats and
Right.
versus the regular kind of civilians. There's a huge difference. That first year and a half, I graduated from high school in Germany. I told you this.
Right.
And most of my time before 18 was overseas.
Okay.
Coming back to the States was a shock. It was huge. I didn't have any friends the first year I was here. I didn't. I did. It was a culture shock being here in
Yes.
Tucson. I just, but you're right. I mean, some of those values, integrity, always being early.
Oh,
Oh my God.
punctuality is a huge,
Punctuality. Yeah. No.
because you just never know. The military, it's like if you're 15, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
You're late.
because
Yeah.
you just never know.
Yeah.
And that's just to give you that buffer.
Right.
And then it also gives you a chance to, when you get there, you know, maybe there's last minute things you need to do, paperwork or whatever. So
Yeah.
you got that 15 minutes there.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah. And then, the things that, your appearance, what you wear, how you treat everybody.
Definitely.
I think all those things that I think I knew when I first met you, I knew right away you probably had a military background. It's just the way you present yourself, right?
Right.
But how you instill and keep those values into what you do. I mean, it's glaring. I think it's what separates you from the rest of us.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, if you have any questions for Jamar or I, it's 520-790-2040. We're here in the last segment of the Marketing Corner. So getting back to, what are some of the things that, when you see yourself that maybe you've overworked yourself a little bit? What are some of the signs that you can tell, and what do you do?
The biggest thing is rest. Because if you don't, eventually, your body's going to shut you down.
Right.
So, and then, when I'm not, and you can tell when you're thinking clearly, and then when some things are just not, when you're off, like, okay, I probably need to shut it down a little bit. But those are my tall tale signs.
Yeah.
Aside from driving home, falling asleep, and not being drunk. So I would say, yeah, that gets kind of scary sometimes. But I would say work ethic is very important. Just don't overwork yourself.
Yeah. My biggest sign is when I go home and I fall asleep on the couch and I wake up like 12, 13 hours later in my clothes with like that drool all over my face.
Yeah.
That's the sign that I've overdid it.
Like, I'm still here in the same spot.
My TV's shut down and everything. Yeah. I tend to do that a few times a year, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's when I got to take a day off, kind of go walk around a little bit, kind of get back on a better diet for at least a week.
Oh yeah, and by the way, exercise is important. When you're a solopreneur, you have to get out there and exercise, take care of your body. That's so important because again, if you're not there, then the business don't run.
How important is your network? Your network of people that you collaborate with, your clients, the people in your pipeline.
Oh, definitely. Your network determines your net worth. Let me repeat that, because I know people say it's a cliche, but your network really determines your net worth. We were talking offline about spending money for consultants and everything. A lot of times people spending money for the consultants, but it's also to meet like-minded people. But it's also to tap into that consultant's network. So now you got access to his network too. So the more networks you can have access to, then the better that's going to help you long run, because now you have problem solvers in different networks that you may need. You may need somebody on the legal side. You may need somebody, that's part of the financial side. Then you may need somebody on the marketing side or even operations. So the more networks you can tap into, the better. And again, most of those networks have strong values of like-minded people who believe in work ethic too.
Yeah. One of the tendencies or the traps of maybe joining some of those upper echelon type of networking groups is just wanting to try to be one of those people.
Right.
Don't do that to be one of those people, though.
Right.
Do that because you're getting some value, and like what you just said right now, people that are like-minded that are really gonna like take an interest in you and how they could help you grow your business.
Right.
Because I think I've seen a few times where people are joining more of the higher end groups here, just so they could say that this so and so is my quote unquote buddy.
Yeah.
He's not your buddy. He don't care about you.
He don't care about you. And one thing I would tell you is that, and I tell even my clientele, surround yourself around like-minded people who want to see you successful, and then you want to see them successful. It makes a major difference. But I tell you what, once you start getting these upper echelon people that you want to hang around with, they mean business. So if you're not So if you're not trying to get to that level, oh yeah, they will not talk to you because they was
Right.
like, hey, you're
Yeah.
at this level right now. I thought you were trying to do something.
Hmm.
And sometimes, you need a reality check to tell you like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, I do need to do some things
Yeah.
different.
What are some of the biggest lessons you learned, both good and bad? Since you've been working for yourself for how long now?
Well, going about 9 years.
9 years. So,
Yeah.
biggest lesson you can give the audience, both good and bad.
The biggest lesson,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I repeat that. You can't do it by yourself, and get you a strong team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm working on now, building my own team.
Mm-hmm.
You partner up with Sean, taking some of that load off of me. It's not just about making money, because you can make money to survive, but can you make money and can you scale it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest things I learned. One of the great takeaways is that you have the freedom, to take risk,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to answer to anybody when you own your own business.
Can risk be budgeted? Does that make sense? Can you budget a certain amount every year
Yeah,
that you're gonna
absolutely. You can.
that's set aside from your marketing and everything else?
Oh yeah, you can have different pots of money for everything.
Okay.
You can have 5 different accounts. There's a thing called Profit First out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not plugging it, not telling you, but there's
Mhm.
a book called Profit First. It helped me understand a lot. So yeah, so you can budget anything. It's all numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, what I tell people, have a plan when that revenue comes in, whether you
Right.
believe in the
right.
Dave Ramsey concept, the baby steps,
Mhm.
but have a plan when that revenue comes in. And I
Mhm.
think as you do that, then you can budget for anything.
Yeah. What are some of your biggest goals for 2025?
My biggest goal for 2025 is to have my team established.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really hone in on my social media. That's where Sean comes in,
Boom.
CMG, and then continue to expand my network also.
Mhm.
And then for the callers here, the people that are listening, call into the marketing corner because this information is crucial to your business development. Also, there's local resources out here, like Rick Loveland over at the SBDC. If you haven't heard of him, Google SBDC, Rick Loveland. These are free programs out there that are nonprofits that help out. They're geared to help out small businesses. So not only do you have the marketing corner, you have free resources from the government also that can help you out. Utilize those resources. Call into the show, ask questions.
Yeah.
That's what the show is here for.
Exactly. And we are very transparent. I mean, I think just this last hour, we've
Right.
shown that, we fall on our face. These
Oh,
are some of the things
absolutely.
that we do not so well. We know that.
Mhm.
And these are some of the areas where we've kind of,
Hmm.
done okay with. So
Yeah.
another resource, every second Tuesday at the Sands Club, we do the hot seat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where
Absolutely.
we put 2 experts, up front of a group of people. They talk a little bit about themselves, but if you show up to the Sands Club and are interested in what they're talking about, you can ask them anything they want. And that's the only thing we ask from the experts that show up is just to be transparent,
Absolutely.
not to be afraid of telling you not how they've just succeeded, but where they've failed as well.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I think 2025 for you and I, Jamar, is going to be pretty big.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's going to kickstart here these last few months. Without going one side or the other, I'm not going to take a side here, but I think the election is going to be impactful for a lot of us, no matter who wins.
Well, I'm just hoping to keep some of my friends because I'm telling you,
I miss being able to talk politics amongst people that it's a lost stage right now.
One thing I would tell you when you become a business owner, a lot of stuff
Oh yeah.
changes
Yeah.
when you become a business owner.
Yeah, and that's one thing as we get into this last minute. I'm going to just kind of throw that in.
Hmm.
I respect everybody's opinion. I really, really do. But as a small business owner, when you bash the other side,
That's true.
you're potentially losing half of your potential client or even some of your current clients.
Hmm.
You can't just assume everybody thinks the way you do.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that a lot recently.
A lot.
A lot. And it's no kind of like in the gray.
Hmm.
They're just bashing the other side to a pulp. I'm like, what are you doing?
If you know, and you know, a lot of times they don't realize
Oh,
the people that they're bashing
yeah.
work right
Yeah.
across the hall from each other.
Right.
They golf and
Right.
everything like that, but
Yeah.
we over
Yeah.
here bashing.
Yeah.
We over here bashing other people.
Thank you for checking us out. Make sure you catch us next week with Edmund Marquez on the Marketing Corner.